Mm.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I hope everybody has had a wonderful day and it's Sunday, so hopefully everybody was off. I have a guest today, Coach Jessica Miramontes, and I'm so excited to have her on because we have a lot of the same thoughts, experiences, but in a different way. So I
Yeah,
appreciate her taking her time out today on Valentine's Day. Jessica, how are you doing? Freezing?
I'm great. Oh yeah, it's absolutely horrible here right now. I don't think Texas is allowed to get this cold, and so everyone's freaking out right now. So it's kind of funny. We
Yeah,
don't have
I
the clothes.
agree.
We are not ready.
No, I know. My husband said the same thing. He's just like, you would not believe. And I was like, don't even talk to me about cold because I'm in Colorado. We were -6 and it's hot in my room because I have the heater, I think
Yeah.
like on 80. But, yeah, I couldn't deal with that. I was about to die. I was about to die, definitely. So I just want you to introduce yourself to everybody. Tell them who you are and what you're doing. And yeah, tell them what you're doing.
Rock on. My name is Jessica Miramontes. I'm currently a Muay Thai instructor at Muller MMA. I have been doing martial arts since I was a child, like about 8 years old, but I've been competing competitively since about 2005. No,
Wow.
2006. I'm sorry, 2006. Um, I actually qualified for the U.S. national team in Sanda, which is Chinese kickboxing, and I qualified for the 2008 Olympic cycle. Unfortunately, my sport was an exhibition sport, so they cut my weight class. So I found out like that I wouldn't get to go like in January. So it was super heartbreaking. So after that, I went pro in MMA and went on a little tear there, and I went 3-0. And then after that, I took a giant break because of just crazy life stuff, and you find out like how much do you really love fighting,
Right.
and you find out how much sometimes fighting doesn't love you back, which happens. And
It
then
does.
a few years later, I started realizing I'm completely in love with this, and whether it ever loves me back, I don't care. And so now I've been coaching. I've always been coaching, but I'm really taking coaching to a whole new serious level. My goal is to become one of the top women's MMA coaches, or actually, I'm sorry, one of the top MMA coaches in the world.
You will be.
I think so.
Yeah.
I definitely study hard enough. I definitely work hard enough. I think it's possible. But yeah, so that's a
Most
little bit about
definitely.
me.
And I love the fact that you went back and said, coaches, period. Because you
Yeah,
and I were talking and a lot of women don't that I've talked to, because I'm mostly boxing, but I love all combat sports and respect them all. A lot of women, they kind of don't want to talk about the things that go on being a woman as a coach or an athlete because I don't know. I don't know if they feel like maybe they won't get the respect or whatever, but there are some real issues. Do you agree
definitely.
with that?
Definitely. I think when I was younger, I would try to minimize the feelings of segregation, the feelings of doubt, and like basically when you step into this form as a woman, we are automatically expected to fail.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, it's heartbreaking, but then on top of it, it's like you take it in and you're like, you know what, fuck that. I'm
Yeah.
fine. Like it's totally fine. I'm gonna get through this and it's totally gonna be great. But
Right.
that feeling is always on us all the time. It's not enough to just I gotta work hard, oh I gotta diet, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. It's like, oh by the way, you have a vagina, and so the odds of being successful are very low. I'm like,
Right.
no, I
And
don't
do
believe
you
that.
feel like you have to like go that extra mile, that extra step that men are not doing, like just so
Yeah,
that you can prove yourself besides
I'm
what
sure
you're
this
doing?
I'm sure this happens to you a lot where like you'll make a comment on an adjustment maybe a fighter needs to make,
Mhm.
and you'll say it. And it happens to me all the time. Like I'll go up to this guy and I'll be like, "Hey, look, when you punch, if you flare your elbow first, you turn your knuckles over first, your elbow flares, so therefore your body's disattached from your body." And but then some guy will come by like, "Hey, straighten out your punch." And then like all of a sudden that was gold, and what I said
Yes.
didn't that never happened. And it's
Uh,
like,
yes, yes, I totally can relate to that. I got to a point where I said, you know what? Whoever's opinion is not going to dictate to me who I'm going to be or what I'm going to do.
yeah,
It's almost like you have to just keep walking forward through the snow, through the volcano, through whatever, and just do what you got to do, you know?
Yeah. The one thing I noticed is when I stopped worrying about the doubt that people had. I decided that I was going to start living my life in this way where I would give the information out there and you can decide what you want to do with it. Like it'll help, probably. It more than likely will help. And if you don't want to take part in that's not a reflection of me. That's a
Right.
reflection of you.
Absolutely.
And what I've noticed is very smart people will take in good information no matter the source. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, and then I've also worked really, really hard to surround myself with good, positive, uplifting people
Uh,
that support my goals and my dreams, and don't think that anything I'm doing is ridiculous. Like, I go to a coach, Vanessa Rojas. She actually lives in Garland, where you're from,
you know what?
and
I think
you
I've
need
heard
to
of her.
you need to talk to
Somebody
her.
mentioned her name to me. Because
Oh,
I'm in Garland, you know, with my
yeah.
boxing gym, and someone did mention her name, and we just haven't gotten together. But I definitely will.
Oh, she's a bad bitch. You need to talk to her.
I
She's
have heard of that.
fabulous.
Vanessa
Um,
Rojas. Yes.
Hands down, some of the most beautiful movement I've ever seen come out of any fighter, no matter boxing or Muay Thai. Most beautiful, beautiful footwork, I swear. Anyways,
Mhm.
but my coach, she's immensely successful and she's gone and she's traveled all over the world and everything like that. And it's funny as I'm watching, like, I think I'm pretty good at what I do. She is fantastic at what she does, and it happens to her too. And then I started realizing I was like, oh, this isn't a Jessica thing.
Right.
This is a complete every woman thing. And when it
Right.
dawned on me on that, it was like, oh, okay. So now all we have to do is we just need to band together and just break this entire stigma, because the truth is that we have so much insight because we have to work so much harder.
Absolutely.
Um, one of my favorite things about, like, I'm not really into football, but one of my favorite things ever was the fact that the NFL team that won, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they
Hmm.
had the most diverse coaching staff ever, which included a female strength and conditioning coach,
Oh
I believe.
wow.
Yeah, and then I think there was even one of the actual, like, I don't know if she was a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator. I don't know which, but I know that there was a woman on the coaching staff, and I was like, holy shit, like it's really happening. People are starting to pay attention. People are starting to value what we bring to athletics and sports. And I think what's happening is people are seeing past the concept of, like, I'm no longer the physical specimen that I once was.
Hmm.
I'm no longer an elite athlete, but my mind is 10 times what I was as a competitive athlete. Like, what I can do now is, in my opinion, so much more impressive than any accolade I ever acquired or accomplished.
And that's the thing. I mean, the packaging, it doesn't matter. It's what's here, especially when you're a
Right.
teacher, a coach, a trainer, whatever. I mean, you take all your knowledge of being a fighter and coaching and this and that, and it's this,
Yeah.
and people don't understand that. I don't know if you've gone through this, but for me personally, so I had to go against, or fight against the guys that were, doubting and, oh, you can't do this, you should do that. Why are you here and I'm not, but also women in my sport in boxing, and I'm like, we need to support each other. We need to lift each other up. And some of them were the worst. I mean, the
Yeah.
first gym I ever walked into, they had a female coach and she would not have anything to do with me. She wanted me to fail. She put every obstacle in the way for me to do that. Um, so it's
Yeah.
like you've got the some
Yeah.
and then the men, you know.
So I actually was having that exact conversation. So yesterday I participated in a women's empowerment Muay Thai meetup. And so I brought all the women that I knew that could do Muay Thai, and we all got together yesterday at Vanessa's gym. And and we were supposed to have like a whole bunch more women, but the weather was shit. So, but we
Hmm.
still had, it was 24 degrees in the gym, 24 degrees, and we
Wow,
still had 23 women show up,
I
drove
love
through
it.
ice, and we all got together and we just trained together, different age groups, different levels.
Wow.
And it made me feel really good, because I remember back in the day, my coach would be like, hey, there's a girl coming and we're gonna spar. Like,
Yeah.
it was like basically like, don't make me look like shit.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
like, okay. So you have to like amp yourself up. And I even participated in that negative mindset of basically the girl would show up and I'd kick the shit out of her, and then I'd back off immediately afterwards. But like, it was this expectation that there's not enough to eat for everybody.
Right.
And in
And
all
there is.
actuality, there's plenty. There's
The
more than
table
enough.
is
And like,
long and huge and wide, and there's plenty for all of us.
yeah, and you know what's funny is like I look now and I really have changed the way I've lived my life in regards to this is like um as long as we're all operating with the premise of mutual respect, I basically live my life in this concept of like I exist because you are. Like so
Right.
basically like we all can go together forward. And
Absolutely.
if we don't live our way like this anymore, what happens is it turns into this like rats in a bucket dragging each other down and no one wins and no one gets better and that's not the way to live life in general and it's really interesting because women have been told that there's not enough for us and then that you're not like you're not even going to make it but if you do it's this bitch is trying to take it from you and I'm like
Right.
it's not true.
Right, right. No, you're absolutely right. And that goes to so we were talking and I Googled this word, Ubuntu. Is it
Yeah,
Ubuntu?
Ubuntu, yeah,
Ubuntu. And it's a
yeah.
South African word, is that right? And
Yeah,
I
it's a
love it.
philosophy. Yeah,
Explain to
um,
people what it is.
so Ubuntu is this concept, it's a philosophy of how you kind of exist. And what first brought it to my mind was when I heard about Doc Rivers and the Boston Celtics. By the way, I just study coaches. I figured it'd be a good coach. You got to study coaches.
Yes.
Anyways, Doc Rivers, he wasn't having a lot of success, and he had traded some of his top players. Like they got rid of some of his top players, and he was left with these guys. And he's like trying to figure out, like, shit, I've got to win a championship. I'm in a very competitive city, and he came together and he thought, like, he found this philosophy of like, I am because you are, and it's this
Mhm.
collective idea that you can be your best self through others.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're not eating and I'm eating, and we're really going to build a really amazing team. And the cool thing about this concept is that it transcends all barriers of race. It transcends all barriers of socioeconomic standards. It transcends all of that because what happens is then we start thinking of each other as a group and not as this like I get mine, you get yours.
Right.
I think there's gyms out there where they will have basically like a dog eat dog. They get
Yes.
really excited about this dog eat dog, like
Been
we're gonna
there.
tear each other a new one. And then what happens in that setting is that one, you may have 50 fighters there, one will be successful because he's chewing up and spitting out everyone else.
Right.
Rather
Right.
than you can build a team of people where
Absolutely.
by taking your weakness and helping you, like I have a student who helps another student or another, with their weaknesses, what happens is that elevates their ability and then it elevates their ability. And it's not this no one get left behind thing. It's more along the lines of like, I'm good at this, so I'm gonna help you with this. And you got better at this. And then when this person gets better, they come and help you. And we all go together and we all grow together and we all build together. And when you do that, what happens is it doesn't even like I love winning. Don't get me wrong, I love winning.
Sure.
But what ends up happening is that this growth becomes this triumphant journey. And we no longer have to sit here and tear each other down.
Yes. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, in the gym and just in society, if we all did that, can you imagine how great this world would be? I mean, it would
Oh,
be
I
amazing.
know.
It would be so amazing. So we have a question to you, Jess. Do
Mhm.
women feel that they are against the world of men? What is your answer
Um,
to that?
I actually don't feel like I'm against the world of men. I think I'm constantly trying to collaborate with men, and what happens is I'm oftentimes dismissed.
Hmm.
I actually believe I can learn from everybody. I believe that even if it's like someone who doesn't know what they're doing and they think they know what they're doing, it's fine. Sometimes I'm like that
Right.
too. There's
Right.
always a diamond. You may have to sift through some shit to get to the diamond, but there's a diamond in there somewhere. Like you learn, oh, overtraining is bad, or like, oh, that's a really cool thing I saw you do there. I
Yeah.
hate everything else you did, but you know what? I really like this one little thing. I think I'm gonna incorporate that. And so when it comes to men, I think it's not that I feel I'm against them. In fact, I actually love working with most of them, and there's very few I do not. And really what it boils down is back to that Ubuntu concept. So the main core values of Ubuntu is survival, solidarity, spirit, compassion, dignity, and mutual respect.
Yeah.
And so when I feel like I'm not being mutually respected, I feel like my boundaries are violated. Like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to love you from afar over there. And when we're ready to collaborate, we're going to collaborate and build beautiful things. Like that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that too myself. I just want mutual respect. I mean,
Yeah.
we all work hard. We all have our
Hmm.
passion. We all do what we believe, and let's just have mutual respect, whether it be from other women or men or whatever. Like it's just across the board. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. I do. Let me see. So, and then we have a question: are you still fighting today? Are you still competing?
No, no, when I had some health issues peak out like a few years ago, and like I just kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And it turns out like if you cut weight really poorly, which I don't do wrong anymore, like
Mhm.
I do my fighters correctly because I learned that.
Right.
My hormonally, I got just really messed up, and I'm in the process of correcting it now. And for the first time in about 10 years, I'm finally getting to this healthy way. So,
Good.
I mean, there are a lot of successful older athletes. I wouldn't say I might not ever do something competitively, but I don't think I'll ever fight ever again. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, but and so you've transitioned into coaching, and do you feel like that is maybe your new passion? It's in the same facet of combat sports. It's just a different, you know, way to get there.
Yes. What I learned a few years ago, I tried to be a real grown up, and
Mhm.
I became a school teacher, and
Oh,
I absolutely loved teaching. And what I learned about myself is that I could be teaching basket weaving, I could be teaching anything. As long as I get a chance to teach others, I am completely happy in this world. So I mean, I just happen to also love combat sports, and I love the fact that you put the work in and then you see the product and it comes right out.
yes,
And
yes.
it's very, very instant gratification in a way. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes over months, but still you see the direct output of the effort you put in. And if you don't put the effort in, like that ring time don't lie. Like you've got to put the work in to get results. And so I love that about that. But
Most
yeah,
definitely.
I see myself as a teacher first, coach second, which is very similar.
Hmm.
And more so like if I get to do that for the rest of my life in some facet, I will be completely content.
That's awesome. And so my husband and I always say, when we get these kids or young adults or adults, whatever, and they come in, they may not be world champions, but they're going to be champions in life because it's
Right.
just there's so much discipline and respect and love. And to us, that's the most important thing. Do
Yeah.
you feel that way with your students? Okay, maybe you don't have it, but you're going to be an amazing person in whatever you do.
Right. So the coolest thing ever is seeing someone who they aren't the most athletic person in the gym and they aren't the most, but they are passionate about helping others. And because of that, you see other things come out. So what I learned is not everybody's meant to be a world-class athlete.
Right.
Some people are meant to be teachers. Some people
Yes.
are meant to be motivators. Some people are meant to express themselves in other ways. And to suppress that or negate that is wrong. It's so wrong. And to only measure people's value on their athletic credentials, like, I mean, I did some pretty cool things, but and if you look at like the world class athletes of today, it's nothing really. And but
Right.
those aren't who I am. Who I am is the gifts that I'm willing to share with others. And I think if you can define yourself and you can find happiness to that, because the truth is if you only define yourself by athletic accomplishments, people don't realize like this is this very small fragment in time, and then once it's over, it's gone.
Absolutely.
And like 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 fight withdrawals, like you'll go and you'll have like a fight camp, or you'll go and have like a whole fight camp, and then you'll have a fight, and then afterwards you're like do like twiddling your thumbs, like
Right.
I feel off. You're like, no, you just didn't understand that this is a lifetime thing, not a only I did this awesome athletic accomplishment. The
Right.
growth exceeds that.
Most
So
definitely.
yeah.
I want to ask you about something. So in boxing, we say, it's 80% mental, and the
Yeah.
rest is the physical. Do you feel that translates in all combat sports?
Oh yeah. I think that trend like goes across the board in life in general. Like, so I have a joke, and my guys always laugh because I when they start to make the face, like I call it, in their face
Yeah,
doesn't, I call it their little bitch, and I'm like, your little
yeah,
bitch is showing, and
I love
and
it.
really, yeah, I'm such an asshole.
Love it.
But I'll be like, hey, your little bitch is showing. We need to fix that. And basically what I've started doing is I show people that through the physical exertion that they're experiencing, it's just a little bit, a little fragment of the, like, what's, you've got more in the reservoir than that. You've got so much more than that. And so
Yes.
I believe that is huge when people understand, like, they can overcome this really hard thing. Like, I learned from my coach. He was my coach's name is Ian Lee, and he was um multiple, like, seven-time Chinese champion for
Wow.
Sanda. He's incredible, and he was really a huge fan of Western boxing. So I actually learned to do boxing first, and then he was one of the
Okay.
first ones to pair Western boxing with Chinese kickboxing. So he
Oh
went
my,
and tore everybody up. So that was like my base. So I love boxing because of that.
fabulous.
Anyways, he used to make us do this thing called 400 800s, and you run a 400, 1 minute rest. You run an 800, 1 minute rest, and that's a set. And he used to sit there, and I used to dread that. Like, it's how you deal with adrenaline dump.
Yeah.
I used to dread that. Like, I would sit there and I'd sit there and have to have like I was more scared of the fucking track than than a ring. Like, I'll
Right,
fight
right.
anybody if I ain't got to do any more of those.
Right.
And so the Sanda was done in a tournament style at the time, and you would participate in what was called like the World Cup. And so you'd have multiple fights in a day, which isn't obscene. But so you'd run 400, 800s to prepare your body for multiple adrenaline dumps. And I remember him looking at me dead straight in the eye, and we're being told, like, hey, you have 6 sets today. And yeah, it was nasty. And I remember, like, we were trying to talk he would send a guy to watch us because he would say something and then just leave.
Yeah.
And then he would do crazy fucked up shit. Like, he would drive out, drop us off, and he'd like, Jim's that way, get running. Like,
Oh
and it was
my
all
God.
done in it was very adorable accent. But yeah, like, this mentality that I can be dropped anywhere and jog home 12 miles and not even flinch, or the fact
Right.
that I can run sets on top of sets. Like, I like, you don't have to kill me.
Yeah,
I think that mentality, that you build that into somebody, they can do anything.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So,
No, I do agree with that. I do want to tell you real quick. King Carlos says, "Hey, Jess."
oh,
Uh,
that's cute. Thanks.
and I tell my guys and girls that too. It's like your body can do amazing things, but this right here, it's got to be right too. You know,
Yeah.
because I mean, we are machines in a way, but it's our mind that sometimes gets in the way of that. One thing that I've noticed in my own gym and just like working with different, boxers, is anxiety is up, depression is up.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Have you noticed that?
Yeah. I have a theory about that, actually. I was a psychology major, and I'm thinking about
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the future I might go back to school to get my PhD, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll wait. But anyways, my theory is to do combat sports, the level of um, abuse that people endure, whether it's physical, mental, or sexual abuse, is extremely high. I have yet, and at least in MMA alone, I don't know if this is for just boxing, but for MMA alone, I have yet to meet anyone who has not endured one form of those types of abuses.
Same.
So what
Mm-hmm.
ends up happening is when you walk into a gym, nobody walks into the gym like, hey, it's a great day and I just love punching people in the face.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's like I got some shit inside I
There's
need to work
something
out.
there.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so when we walk into the gym, everyone is damaged in a way.
Absolutely.
And we're using this to rebuild and to realize that we are great and possible.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we see so much of that comorbidity of anxiety and depression. I think that's also why we find ourselves constantly like so hard on ourselves, because then it's like if this I don't win this and it doesn't mean anything. Like, no, it's fine. Like you grew a lot. You're okay.
Yeah.
And the best part of all, though, I think, is the relationships that you build inside a gym. Like when you have teammates, like I remember back in the day, like I just love seeing like old friends, and like you'd see people from all over the world, and like you'd like, oh my God, hey, it's good to see you again. Like
Yeah.
you go down to, you're in Argentina all of a sudden, and like you and your friends are walking around Argentina being awesome. And it's special because these people understand the trauma you've been through, the also the what you went through to overcome. And so I think that's the most beautiful part.
No, absolutely. I can totally relate to that. I know that in my own personal life, there were things that went on. And yeah, you wanted to punch somebody. You had so much stuff built up.
Yeah.
Um and I talk to my husband about this a lot because we have so many different people in our gym, and it's like if we had to go through the things that we had to go through so that now we can be
Yeah.
in a position to help, then you know what? Okay, it was worth it. It was worth.
Yeah.
It wasn't in vain. It wasn't just because we can give back.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do. We have a few more comments. So Elena said she's talking about the sprints and the running, and she said, so that's where the torture sprints come from.
that she's that girl is, she's awesome. Yeah, she actually she had COVID, and then all of a sudden she got done running her first set of 400, 800. She's like, I can't see. I was like, oh, and we stop here. Like I've
Yeah,
never cut someone off before.
yeah.
COVID has been so bizarre, but that girl is so tough. She's like, no, I'll be fine. I'll go again. I'm like, sit your ass down. You're done.
It is bizarre. We actually I was late to this camp because my whole household got COVID, and it took a good my first 2 weeks here. I was gonna die. I have to keep up with these
Oh,
athletes, and then I'm in the altitude, and I was just like, something's wrong with me. The
yeah.
recovery is something as well.
It was brutal. Like every injury I've ever had, like it felt like the way my wife and I described the body aches
Uh-huh.
is that somebody like ripped off your muscles, like it
Yes.
fell off like brisket, and then someone took it and stomped on it and then like put it back
Yeah.
on. Like you're fine. It
Oh
was the
yeah.
worst sensation.
No,
Yeah.
same with us. It was not pretty at all.
Well, I'm
So
glad you guys are
God
okay
bless
now.
y'all.
I'm so
Yeah,
pleased.
it's over. Hopefully it's going to stay that way.
Yeah.
But and then we have Brian, and he says, we love you, Jess.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And Steph Claire, Jess.
Oh,
um so I won't keep you long, but the last thing that we were going to talk about was biomechanics and weight distribution. I love this.
yes.
It's so important. So for people that don't understand what that is, please explain to them.
Okay, so I have a joke that I always tell everyone. Like punches and kicks do not come from my arms or my legs. They are expressions of my ass. And what I mean by that
Love it.
is that if you want to hit someone effectively, you have to send weight into the other person. So what I do is I try to eliminate, and I took this cue from boxing because the perfection of taking a strike, and it's really like, I mean, if you take it all the way down to just boxing, it boils down to quality footwork. It boils down to perfect striking and getting rid of the tells, and learning how to properly feint and work on these fundamentals and polishing it. And it's this constant refinement that I love about the classic style boxing. Um, a lot of times in Muay Thai, because you have a lot of translation issues when you speak from Thailand to the United States or
Hmm.
Thailand to Australia, what ends up happening is like a lot of those beautiful finite details get lost. And so my goal is that I try to teach people, especially because I'm a woman. I have a cross and my hooks. I can drop grown men because I've spent so much time on taking my weight and sending it into another person rather than I'm going to hit them really hard with my arm or my leg. And because I teach in this way, I've taught um, really little tiny people to become very, very effective at hitting extremely hard but very quickly.
That's
And
beautiful.
Yeah, and it's really funny because it's like simple things, and it comes from a lifetime, I believe. I mean, I'm not that old. My birthday's coming up next week, but um, you know, I, I think it comes from a lifetime of trial and error, partially. I went
Definitely.
to school at Tech. I had a really anal biomechanics teacher.
Hmm.
Her name was Dr. Boros, and I was a giant pain in her ass. I was always messing up everywhere, and but I was so infatuated with what she taught in that class that I started realizing that we apply biomechanics to every other sport, but we don't talk about it in combat sports, and it is the most
I was gonna say
biomechanically faceted
most
concept.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we don't talk about it. And so
Mhm.
I started taking things out that are slightly controversial. Like, for instance, in Muay Thai, I don't teach getting to your toe is the goal. And what I do is instead I teach that turning the rotation of my ass and sending my weight forward and hard and quickly will lift me to my toe. And it's actually, if you don't know about Muay Thai, it's extremely controversial because it's like saying, um, you know, for boxing, I'm going to throw a cross, but if I
Mhm.
don't rotate my hips all the way through,
Right.
I lose that power. Well, when
Right.
I twist my hips all the way through, is a goal to hit them really hard, or is it just to rotate so quickly that my body sends weight forward?
Right.
And
Right.
when you think of it, the striking the person really effectively becomes the side effect, not the goal. It is
Mm.
a byproduct of me sending energy. And when you look, it sounds so silly when you say it out loud, but if you really think about it this way, what ends up happening is you realize the output of power is simply a side effect of me moving
Sure.
from my right leg to my left leg.
Sure. It makes sense.
And from that, it releases the confines of weak, physically weak people not being able to hit hard.
Yes,
It
definitely.
takes that away, and all of a sudden, when you change the way people think about that, they become just incredibly empowered.
That
And it's
that
all
that
physics.
makes a lot of sense to me. Most
Yeah, so
definitely.
when I teach, like when I show somebody how to hit forward final, I'm like, science bitches, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh.
Exactly. They're not going to argue
So
with that. They're not going to argue
no.
with that.
And I
I
think
have a few.
because I speak that way, that's how I get men to buy in, actually.
Oh, most definitely.
um
Because
yeah,
it's like I don't care what you say, what you think. I'm doing me, and this is what it is, and it is what it
yeah,
is. Yeah, definitely. And I've gotten to be that way too. I have the same issues, in the boxing world that you do too. And it's just like, what I say, and it is what it is, and just deal with it or don't.
yeah,
Um, but it's been a journey, and it's been a good one. And
yeah.
I would not trade my life for anything.
Like
Absolutely not.
I'm so happy we finally get to talk because I've
Me
actually been
too.
secretly creeping on your stuff for a long
Oh,
time. Well, I love.
wow.
Well, I found out about you through I follow Michaela Myers
Oh,
Instagram,
yes.
and
Love Taylor.
yeah, she's so funny, dude. And I don't. I'm like,
I
hi.
love her. Oh,
Yeah, I know.
precious.
He's like, so I follow her, and so I was like, oh my god, who's this awesome? Like, oh my god, she lives in Garland, and so from
Yeah.
then on, yeah. So
Oh, I appreciate that. And as soon as I found you on Instagram too, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so badass. Like, and we're close, and we're gonna come meet you and your wife, and y'all come
we
to our
will.
gym. We're
I
doing
would
it.
love to.
Yeah, as soon as I get done with all this crazy Olympic stuff.
No,
Um,
it's not crazy. It's wonderful. It's
oh, it
because
is
it's
wonderful.
happening.
No, you know
Oh,
what it is. It's a dream
yeah,
come true. I feel
yeah,
very privileged and very blessed. I don't take it for granted at all. It's really awesome. I just have a few more comments.
yeah.
So Vincent says Jess is an amazing coach, and Munoz said best coach in the world. I love
Oh,
it. And then let me see, what is this? I have to have my bifocals on. Lil Surge 432. I've been privileged to have a couple of private lessons with Jess, and she pays
oh,
attention to the smallest details, which change the game drastically. And shout out to Jess.
oh.
And then Katie says, haha, Trash Panda and his Supreme hoodie.
Yeah, that's my wife.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I have 4 dogs at home, so we're dog people.
Oh,
So I
he's
totally
been
get
sitting
it.
down here the whole time trying to jump up. I'm like, no,
He's
get
like,
down.
"Mom, hello. Yeah, what are you doing?" No, so look, I want you to tell everybody about your gym. Wait, one more question. Any tips for girls wanting to fight in MMA? What should my mindset be going into it?
First of all, before you begin MMA, you should definitely get a base in Muay Thai and in Jiu-Jitsu. If you have a wrestling base with it, oh, magnifique, lovely. If not, that's okay too, because it can be learned. The biggest thing is being very patient with the fact that you're learning three simultaneous sports at a time, and you have to be very patient with yourself because it's hard. And also, try not to let your little bit show too much because people will take advantage of it. Yeah,
I love that. I'm gonna start using that.
you should.
Actually,
It's the funniest thing I
yeah,
ever said, I
yeah.
thought.
I love that. I really do. I'm taking that back to the gym for sure.
I like it.
I love it. And so tell us about your gym, where it's located, how can people follow you and see your journey of your fighters?
Of course. So my gym I teach at is Muller MMA. It's got two locations, one in Grapevine and then one in Deep Ellum, Dallas. I teach at both of them throughout the week. But if you want to ever contact me, you can message me at on Instagram at Jess Jessn. That's my middle name, Nicole
That's my
Miramontes.
middle
And
name.
oh, high five.
Yes.
Um, um, and Miramontes, Miramontes, or as I should say it, Miramontes. But yes, I always break it down phonetically first, and then after that, I'm like, now we'll say it for
Yeah.
realsies.
I'm the same. I'm like, Lopez. My husband's like, it's Lopez. I'm like, yes, you're
Say
right.
it right.
You're absolutely right. No, it's been such a pleasure. And
Of
like I said, I'm
course.
sorry. It's Valentine's Day, so hopefully you and your wife
Oh,
can still have a great evening.
oh,
Thank you
we're
for
great. We're iced in. We're solid. You're
okay,
wonderful. No
yeah. Oh
stress.
my
Yeah,
God. Yeah. It was so funny. I'll tell you real quick. My kids and my husband, they were like, oh, we went to the grocery store. There was nothing left. And I was like,
I know.
when did y'all know this was gonna happen? Like when I'm not there, like the house like crashes down, you know? But
I'm one of those. My week has been absolutely crazy. I'm so mad at myself. So right now we have some food in our house, but like I
yeah.
was like, oh shit, I messed up. I was like, oh no.
I
So
get
now
it.
we're like, well, I got beans, I got some soup.
Hey, if you have beans, you're good. You
We're
know,
solid.
you're good. Yeah, exactly. Well, y'all have a wonderful evening, and I thank you again so much. And I can't wait to get back in town so we can all meet up.
Lovely. You be safe, have fun, and wish Team USA the best luck. I'm
Absolutely.
rooting for them.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too,
Bye.
mamas. Bye.